Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Scots Way podcast. And in what has become a bit of an annual thing since lockdown started, I'm talking to my brother, Andy Braidwood, who's in the wilds of Braemar. And we're going to just chat about some of our favourite things of the year and things we would be recommending to each other anyway when we catch up. But first of all, hello, Andy, how you doing?
Hi, Ali. How are you? I'm doing fine here up in Braemar. It's snowing a dinger outside, and we're in the middle of a sort of Christmas festival in the village, so it's very seasonable weather indeed. Snow. I love snow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to coming up to see you over Christmas.
Yes,
Yes, absolutely. But before we do that, the much more important thing about chatting. This has actually been requested by some people, by the way, if we would do another one, so which is very touching.
It's the fans. Give the fans what they want.
The fans
obviously.
what they want, man. Yeah. So
Yeah, man.
will I go first with my first recommendation of the year, one of my favourite things of the year, to get us back into the way of doing things?
Yeah, Ali. Yeah, fire away, and then I'll pick up once you've done something. Yeah.
Okay, well, the very first, I want to talk about an album by Butcher Boy. Were you ever aware of Butcher Boy? They started in the late 90s and went on through the time.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not aware of them, Ali. Sorry, I'm shaking my head, but I realise this will be on audio as well, won't it? Yeah. No, I haven't.
So Butcher Boy, basically, where when people said, "Oh, I like," these days you think, you like this band, therefore you'll like this band. So back in the day, in the late 90s, people said, "Oh, I really like Belle and Sebastian." You might say, "Well, I think you're going to love Butcher Boy because they've got the same kind of, I'm going to say sophisticated indie, but intelligent indie music where the lyrics are quite literate." And really terrific band. I think there was, over the years, their lineup has kind of changed and expanded and, all that kind of stuff. And they pop up every now and again. And this year they popped up with a kind of anthology of their kind of greatest hits. It's called You Had a Kind Face. And I think there's 3 new tracks on it as well, but it's an absolutely beautiful album. I'd kind of forgotten about them, absolutely, but this was a great reminder of why I liked them in the first place. And actually the album itself, the vinyl I am holding up for viewers on YouTube, it's a beautiful thing with kind of old footage of like Newtown places. Pete Paphides, the journalist, basically helped to get the thing put out in the first place. And there's some fantastic liner notes by the writer John Niven, which are almost worth buying the album for themselves. They're really moving, all about I should say that the town is Livingston. That's where they kind of came from. So that's where all these pictures are. And I know you like this kind of thing, like the old
back
in the day, Bride and Cumbernauld and all of this kind of Newtown, and even Cambuslang shopping centre and things like that.
I'd like, having gone to school like we went to, Ali, you can't not like a bit of brutalism.
Exactly, and there's a lots of brutalism in here. In fact, we thing at the bottom of this fantastic picture of a mum and her son is sat friendly on a slab of stone. You think, absolutely, we did. But the music's fantastic. It's, even if you'd never heard the band, it's real 90s stroke early 2000s indie music. And things like bad things will happen when it's quiet. This kiss will marry us. The days our voice broke. There's lots of kind of nostalgia, that kind of reminiscence of first love and first house. There's lots of nostalgia in this. They were in the songs originally, and this is like nostalgia on top of nostalgia, if you know what I mean.
It sounds like my cup of tea at the moment, because I've just, I seem to have had my ears shut or something during the early 90s for some reason. I think I was into ambient music, and that was me. I was so stuck on just this, new music that was to me. So I missed a lot of the stuff there, and I'm going back and I've just discovered the Slow Dive and things like that, and
all the shoegazy stuff,
but really nostalgic, ethereal kind of indie pop, shoegaze, dream pop, whatever you want to call it. That grunge seemed to have brutally knocked out the way.
Well, see, in the UK, now you know me, I devoured my music papers, and there was lots of stuff written about Ride and about the very first Verve album and like Slow Dive and and all of these bands that I could absolutely see you loving, because it was a really popular movement, but it was very much a UK thing.
I don't know how I missed it. Like I say, it's all the stuff I love. It's loads of effects pedals, loads of reverb, lots of atmosphere, the sort of hushed vocals, and I'm I'm amazed it just passed me by. I don't know what I was doing. I was obviously on a different, slightly
very
planet.
very much influenced by the Cocteau Twins, and you know that.
Yeah.
But you've got Mazzy
Yes.
Star. I guess they're American, but you know, yeah, you're right. That kind of scene.
So I'm going back and relearning all that, which is great because I've never heard it before. So it's coming to new, and I love that when you just discover something you've just missed, and it's all good music, but it's like you've never heard it before. So that's where I'm at with that. So that sounds like my cup of tea, Ali.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not shoegaze. I should stress that it is more kind of guitar-y, epic, chamber pop kind of stuff. Like, as I say, like Bell and Sebastian would do their strings, their horns, and all that. But yeah, I think you will like it. And it's very much talking about childhood itself, which I know is a thing that you like as well.
Yeah. I've got. When you're talking about the buildings and the new towns and stuff like that, I've got quite a collection of East Kilbride, Hamilton, and Cumbernauld postcards by a company called oh gosh, what are they called again? Hail Caledonia. You can't get them anymore, but they're fantastic postcards of the time. And I digress hugely, but we'll chat about that when you're up.
Right. What's your first suggestion for me?
Right. This book here, which I'll try and hold up.
Which is called?
This book is called Confessions of a Highland Art Dealer by Tony Davidson. And I bought this when I was in, where was I? I was over in Glencoe and on a short holiday. And that's the time I tend to read because for some reason, my brain doesn't work that way. I'm not very good at sitting down for large chunks of time and concentrating. So I got this on holiday because it's practically aimed at the likes of me. And I really enjoyed it, just purely because some of it I could have written probably because if I had the writing skills, the places where the writer has, Tony Davidson, has found himself quite similar to where I've been myself, and he what he did was he bought a redundant church up north, and with not very much money in his back pocket, started doing it up, and started writing off to starting at the top, the best artist, or what he thought, what he regarded as the best artist that he could, and with no planning permission in place or anything, but just started with a vision of doing this thing, and it's that story of him bringing it to reality, and it was a good read for me. I finished it. You know me, Ali. I'm not a huge reader, but I just finished that in one sitting. I couldn't put it down because it was great. So I enjoyed that. I don't know. Have you read it? No, you haven't read it.
No, I haven't. You told me about it, and I'm looking forward to reading it. We should say for people at home that you run a gallery in Braemar, which is why it kind of really hits with you so much.
Yeah, I should explain that. Obviously, I'm talking to you, so I don't need to explain to you. But with everyone else that's listening, yes, that's what I do. So, the Confessions of a Highland Art Dealer just resonated with me because it's very similar to my experiences of doing it as well. So yeah, good read and well written, funny as well, and yeah.
No, I really want to read that. It sounds excellent. My next choice is a book as well, and again, it's one I think you would really enjoy. It's Graham Thompson's Themes for Great Cities, and it's his new history of Simple Minds, and it basically covers the early albums up to New Gold Dream. I don't think it goes any further than that. Up to kind of Don't You Forget About Me suddenly took them to another level. And as I think you would agree, and certainly most people seem to, those were the really interesting Simple Minds years when it was very European and electronic and kind of Can and Kraftwerk and all of that kind of stuff. And Giorgio Moroder were their influences, you know. And Jim Kerr wore loads of eyeliner and looked a bit like a character from Blackadder.
Yeah, exactly. Listening back now, that I mean, I liked all the big music because I just a couple of years younger than you, but when I look back now and I can see what the influences are, and it's far more interesting music, the early stuff, because like you say, it's really odd, you know, to hear it now. I don't know if it was odd in its context, probably did sound quite odd at the time.
I think probably the first Simple Minds album I would have had would have been the American. We had the American on it. It's Sister Feelings Call, I think. Oh gosh. Anyway, and that was quite. It was almost starting to have American kind of funky. There was the bass line going on, but it was still
slap
funk, and it was starting to change. So that was kind of and they continued to go that way, as you say, and became kind of bigger and bigger. But this Graham Thompson, who's a fantastic music journalist, has really done his research. He talks to nearly everyone. I say nearly everyone. Mel Gaynor, who was always introduced as the best young drummer in the world.
The best young drummer in the world.
Hasn't spoken to him. And it's a real shame because there's no doubt that the say Sparkle in the Rain, I think was the first album he played on, and you have those drums in Waterfront. And he basically changed their sound almost. Because he was such a mad drum. When you play the drums, Andy, you can say how.
Well, that's actually what I was going to ask you. I said, was Mel Gaynor in the band at that point? When did he come in? Or was he always in?
No, he wasn't. No. In fact, it goes through a lot of the other changes that happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's the usual thing with bands. There are some people that go, oh, I can't wait for this to happen any longer. I've got to get on with my life.
Yeah.
Twin driving forces of Jim Kerr and Charlie Burchill right from the start. Real kind of brothers. Saying, well, this is going to happen, and they were taking trips to Europe and then taking out, going to galleries and reading books and all the stuff that's in those early albums. They were just desperate and hungry to learn more. Mel Gaynor comes in sounds wise on, I think it must have been, I don't think he plays on every track in Sparkle in the Rain, but
it must be Sparkle in the Rain because that's when it got really
well, that's when
bombastic.
What do you think of the drums in Waterfront, and boom boom. That's where that's when he really kind of kicked it. Now I'm thinking off the top of my head here. He may play on some of New Gold Dream, I think. But then Sparkle in the Rain was next, wasn't it? That's right. And that was the kind of bigger, bombastic, almost stadium-filling sound that we came to know what came afterwards. But
Once Upon a Time after that.
Yeah. Exactly. And he certainly plays on all of those tracks. So that's the kind of ghost at the feast that's missing, if you like, but it doesn't matter. It's a terrific read if you like Simple Minds, even if you didn't. But there's all the stuff, him and Tory Glenn and Charlie up in Carnunnock, and getting together, pals, and they made 5 or 6 albums over like 4 or 5 years. It's quite incredible. The amount of output they were doing, and they were touring and all of those things. And there's lots of great stories with Don't You Forget About Me, which was originally put up to at least Echo and the Bunnymen and other bands as well.
Really? I didn't know that.
And they didn't want to do it. The band did not want to do it.
Right.
And then they said, oh, right, okay. The guy who had worked with them said, I think you'd be really good at this. And of course, the rest is history, because that just broke America with them.
Massive, yeah.
No, it's a really good book. I think you'll really
cool.
like.
Nice, man.
Next choice from yourself.
Okay. Mine is Lewis McLaughlin, his new album, which is called Feel the Ground You Walk Upon. And that's it there if I hold it up.
Yes, it's a fantastic record.
Yeah, it's a great record. Cracking cover as well, which I just really enjoy. But I met him a wee while ago. A friend was playing in a Ceilidh band, and they're all terribly young. And I think he's 20. And we did a wee Ceilidh gig. I was playing the drums, and thought nothing more about it. But he had some really nice songs that he was playing on acoustic guitar. And then the next time I saw him, he was playing Glastonbury, the little, the sort of BBC newcomer acoustic set in Glastonbury. Introducing, yeah, right. So and he did a brilliant. I'm not sure which one he did. He might have done Summer.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's a track called Summer, which is fantastic. I think he studied sound production as well, because when you get some of the songs, they have all these layers of vocals and quite and not strange but interesting edits and layering of the vocals, and you can hear his John Martin influence and stuff like that. And through talking to him, his folks were into John Martin and stuff like that. You can hear how when he's playing the guitar and singing, to me it's all one sound. It's just like, sometimes you're not quite sure of the words, because it's all one sound. It's like you couldn't take one from the other. And he's really very, very good. And this album, everything's been delayed this year, vinyl. Yeah. I think so. It took a while to get here, but it's fantastic. I'm trying to think what else I like on it. I mean, just gosh.
Have you
got it?
I have. Just a couple of days after you. In fact, I was at the Scottish Alternative Music Awards on Thursday night, and I bumped into him. And I was because he was shortlisted for the Best Acoustic Award. Very strong 4. It was Lindsay Clark who won it. It was Betty Sakasa, Fairweather Friends, and Lewis McLaughlin. So I was able to have a chat with him, and I told him that we were both really excited when the vinyl popped through the door. That. But
he's a nice guy.
Really nice guy. It's beautiful music. He's done a kind of EP of acoustic versions of some of the songs on it, which is acoustic ones, and which is also worth checking out. He's one to watch out for. I think Lewis McLaughlin's going to be a big star. Whatever that means these days. You know what I mean? I think
they should be.
Come to talk about albums, this year and next year, then that will be one that people will mention. He certainly is well thought about in the Scottish music industry. So I've heard. I spoke to him for the radio show, the Swahi radio show, and he was great to chat to.
He was also up for. Would it be a newcomer at the Trads, or what? He was up for something at the Trads. Yeah. I watched that on the BBC Alba.
Oh, good, excellent. This is award season, isn't it? Every night there's another. The night of the SAMA Awards, it was also the Saltire Book Awards, and there was, the Scottish Jazz Awards has just happened because Cara Rose and Kitty have won awards at that, well deserved. So it is that kind of time of year.
Yeah, man.
So my next one is a podcast. Discovered. It does seem to me that during lockdown, the podcast situation exploded, and like everyone went, we're chatting to each other, a bit like we're doing now. Let's start recording it, and there are loads. In fact, last week, let's say, was the Scottish Podcast Collaboration Week, when there was loads. It was organised by Don from the Scottish Murders podcast, which you should check out, and loads of others. And if you go over to scotswayhay.com, you can see my post and find out everyone that was involved, and they're all well worth your attention. Really varied. You had the Scottish Wrestling Network, you had Mum's Murders and Mysteries, you had a little pod of inspiration. It's just a real wide range of stuff. But my favourite of the year, and one of my favourite things of the year, was discovering, and I'll hold this up on my phone so you might be able to see it, but it's the Culture Swally podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I love this. It's so up my street. When I found it, I was like, oh, this was great. And actually, the first one I listened to was their chat on Restless Natives. One of you and I's favourite films. Great to hear people talking about it. But so how it worked is it's Greg and Nikki, who've known each other for a long time. One lives in Holland, one lives in, I think, Dubai. I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that. And they started this podcast because they were chatting to each other anyway. And the first 3, I think they knew each other in Aberdeen, Andy. I think that's right, because they talked about going to Drummond's and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they would sit in there and just have a pint and talk about the funny stories in the paper and, that kind of thing. So the podcast is split into two. The first bit is news stories, very funny and often very rude. So, you know, like a guy who was caught in the Edinburgh. Oh, what's the thing where you can see the whole of Edinburgh? It's near
Camera obscura.
yeah, camera obscura, and he gets caught
Nah,
Willie out
yeah.
for a lark with his girlfriend, but didn't know
Yeah.
that the group of school kids all looking in through a kind of
The next
double
room.
mirror.
Yeah.
Anyway, loads of stories like that, and very, very funny. They're really good company. But then in the second half, they always pick a piece of media that they have enjoyed to talk about. The first one they did was Still Game, but the theatre version of Still Game, you know, which I saw first, which is fantastic. And
That was great. Yeah.
yeah, so they've covered things like Gregory's Girl and Just a Boy's Game, but also more unusual stuff like the film version of Killer, the very first episode of Taggart, which is called Killer. Yes, I got mixed up there. The film version of Complicity and the very first episode of Taggart, which was called Killer. Under the Skin, Naked Video, Bob Servant, and The Crow Road, going right up to the most recent one, which is, well, they did that Sinking Feeling, and then they've also done, in collaboration with Mum's Mysteries and Murders, looking at Des, you know, this David Tennant played, yeah, so I've still to listen to that. Anyway, if you like that kind of thing, if you like basically the stuff that I do in Scots Way, you'll really enjoy the Culture Swally, because they're great, the Culture Swally, because they're great company.
Yeah, man.
But there was loads of other good podcasts. There's also Snack Magazine do Everybody Wants to Play the Hits. David from Broken Chanter has started one still doing the music, which is what everyone asks him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And
how's it going with the music?
Yeah, and lots more than that. But that certainly the Culture Swally was my kind of podcast discovery of the year.
I'm just trying to cast my mind if there's a podcast that I discovered this year. I kind of stick to my staple ones. Although
there's many, that's kind of what I'm saying, Andy. There are so many.
Yeah. Okay.
What's next for you?
What is next for me? Oh, I don't have a visual prop, so I'll just talk about it. For about just before lockdown, we had organised a gig for Jenny Sturgeon, who had finished her Living Mountain album that year, the album based on Nan Shepherd's book, The Living Mountain.
Yep.
And we had to postpone it, I think, at least twice, maybe even 3 times. Anyway, this year we got to do it, and it was fantastic. Did you get a chance to see it at all? The Living Mountain?
Yes, I saw it at the Glad Cafe.
Yeah, so I mean, she had what was really special was she seems to, I can listen to Jenny's voice all the time, because it's just an amazing, beautiful voice. But she's got her for just a bit nerdy, but they've got the loop pedals and various volume pedals and things. So she's actually fleshing out the thing a little bit. So she's got her acoustic guitar. She's sort of trapping sounds. She's got a shruti box and different instruments. So the sound itself was amazing, and she brought her own sound guy with her as well, and also visual projections, video projections of really lovely images. I can't think of another word. They were just really heartwarming images of people walking in the hills. I'm guessing by the look of it was 50s, 60s, maybe early 70s from the archive. And so early colour, cine, sugary footage of people just really enjoying sort of fording rivers and you know, sort of just frolicking in the hills, for want of a better word. But it's such a, you just came away really, really just with feeling good about the whole thing. It was a lovely, lovely evening, and we had quite a good audience. Sorry, we put it in Braemar in the village hall across the road from my gallery. Shameless plug, and it was great. Yeah, it was really fabulous. Yeah.
That whole project has just been fantastic. You know, right from the beginning, I spoke to Jenny on the podcast earlier, but it's managed to have legs and keep on going and keep, evolving as well as it has done. And what's the story with Jenny as guitar and Braemar? There's a link there, isn't there?
Oh yeah, the guitar she used, I had forgotten all about that, Ali. The guitar, which is a Taran guitar made by a very, very talented luthier who is based in Fife, and Rory Dowling, which is a great name for someone who works with wood. Anyway, Rory Dowling makes Taran guitars, and they're just some of the best guitars that I've ever seen, both aesthetically, and they sound amazing. Anyway, Jenny wanted a guitar made from wood from around Braemar, and we had a scratch of our heads, collective heads, and we got some wood from the Fife Arms, the old wine cellar in the Fife Arms that was being thrown away. So the old wine cellar shelves were used for the back of the guitar. And if you look inside the guitar, you can still see the wine rings and where the bottles had been sitting on the shelves inside the guitar. And you can see little sort of nail, there's little nail holes and things. He's left all that on the back of the guitar. Front of the guitar is obviously a nice piece of spruce or something, but yeah. So, and she let everyone look at it and look inside it, and I wouldn't let anyone touch it, to be honest. But
yeah,
everyone
you'd be like that. Don't even look at that one.
Don't. It's still got the tag on. Yeah, exactly. That'd be ringing out. You could go for a bite.
Excuse me. I'm going to change my order around then, because this next one actually marries it's Mango Lassie's Cycles EP. I'm holding it up again to the camera. That's the cover. Yeah. I think it's only available digitally, but wow, you should get it. So these songs, it's a 4-song EP. These songs were getting released, throughout the year, maybe even beginning of last year or in last year. And they link to the seasons, and they're called Coconut Oil, The Otter and the Kestrel, Mama and Bonnie Heather. They would sound great on their own. There's lots of outdoor recording and, sounds in nature and all that kind of stuff. And some of them are quite, we're talking tracks that are 7 minutes 40, 7 minutes 17, which allows them to breathe. But when I first heard them, I didn't realize this was part of a bigger project where Mango Lassie, Amy Bowman is her name, was basically cycling around the Highlands and around Mull, around the other islands, filming it all, collecting thousands of hours of footage, or maybe that's wrong, but anyway, hours and hours of footage, which then came as the video versions of the songs. And I saw her launch the EP at the Glad Cafe in Glasgow, which is very near me, and which is doing some great stuff at the moment. And they had the video, and she had special guests coming on, such as Zoe Bestel come on to sing as well. Oh, it's just a wonderful night, and they make, as I say, they're great individually, but together it transforms it into something else, something similar along the lines of The Living Mountain, because you have this visual aspect, you have this theme that runs through it, this kind of almost like a proper theme that runs through the whole thing, and it's about nature, but it's also about the nature of relationships and how they change and all sorts of things. It's absolutely beautiful. It's called Cycles. It's by Mango Lassie, and although it's an EP, but it's my release of the year. I just think it's wonderful, and it became that by seeing the whole thing, by seeing it done with live music and the video footage and the explanation behind each track and all of those things. So if you get the chance to see it or listen to it, don't miss out.
It's what I'm enjoying about a lot of new work, is that it's always occurred to me, if you're making work that's inspired by the landscape, or it's about the landscape or whatever, why wouldn't you include field recordings? Because and it's getting easier and easier and cheaper to get the equipment to go in, and why wouldn't you incorporate it in the work? And it's nice that things that, like the song exists in a landscape almost, or whatever the music. Yeah, I like that. That appeals to me.
That is happening a lot more. I've just discovered a Glasgow-based artist called Daydream,
Mhm.
who does kind of the dream pop you were talking about earlier on, very
Mhm.
much along those lines. I'll send you a link. But one of
Mhm.
her tracks, it fades out into bird song and, you know, water and a bit of rain and all that stuff. And it's beautiful to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, Andy, your next one yourself.
Okay, right. Yeah, it might have to help me with the pronunciation here, Ali, because this is my album.
Andrew Vaslik, and it's
Right.
Balgay Hill. What's the full title?
Morning in Magnolia.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful album.
So this is on a label called Clay Pipe, and it's one of my. I've been following Clay Pipe, I think, since almost the start of it, and what attracted me, it's just amazing packaging. I know you shouldn't, but I think you can sometimes judge something by its cover.
His new album is also out with them, and it's another
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, it's got a ship in a bottle sort of thing. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it's basically is all curated and packaged beautifully. A bit like I was a big follower of Ghost Box records and Clay Pipe, and what was the other one? There's another one I like. Anyway, this is fantastic. It was written during the lockdown, and everything was on hold. And this was based on morning walks through the park in Dundee, which is, I think it's the park with the big bandstand in it. If I don't really know Dundee brilliantly, but that's so this is based. This whole record's again field recordings. I think there's a bit of that in this. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Sometimes you're listening to it and you don't realize, but that's what I like about it. You don't realize if some of the sounds are outside or inside, and that goes right back to the very first ambient music. You know, sort of. You know, is it where's the edge to the music? Where's the edge, and where does the outside sound begin? So that's what I like about this. But it just really appealed to me, making it just goes to show you, even if you're locked right. In fact, some people come out with the best work, I think, during lockdown because they suddenly the small things became, you know, the things that really regulated life, like going for a walk or, you know, just taking time to appreciate a park or something, you know, which we all got, you know, kind of too busy to do sometimes.
I've been a fan of Andrew for a long time, and I've seen him live a few times, and he's one of he can do it with a big full band, and he can do it just him on a keyboard, you know. And I was talking to someone about this quite recently and saying that album and all his music, it's not ambient music that you put on in the background and go on and do the dishes. It demands to be listened to. You know, it's absolutely music that's to be sat down, maybe a pair of headphones, and just lose yourself.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's like that. It's traveling without moving type stuff. What I was trying to remember when I was speaking to you was the name Frances Castle. It's her, I believe it's her record company. She does all the artwork and the curation, and it's just a really love. It's one of those record companies you go, oh, I've got to get the next one because they're just so beautiful as objects. I mean, you obviously get the download code, so that goes straight on the phone, but it's just a lovely.
Often musicians find the right home. And I would say that Andrew Vaslik has found the right home.
Yeah, I would say so too. Ali Thingy did one on here.
Ali Roberts.
Yeah, he did one with it's called Plaintive Lapwing.
That's right.
And it's a beautiful record.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was me just play pipe music and everything they do. You should all buy it.
My next one is a TV show which is still on iPlayer if people want to watch it on the BBC Scotland channel on iPlayer. And it's Being Mum with MND. Again, I'll hold that up. And it's a really beautiful piece of telly, but face up front, it was directed by a good friend of mine, Jenny Scammell. And I was so delighted for her because it was a fraught production, what with everything going on. You know, it started before COVID and lockdown. And then, of course, there was all the difficulties with dealing with someone who obviously is with MND, is in the vulnerable category, absolutely. But it's basically about a young woman who has MND, but is determined to live her life as fully as she can. She gets married, she has kids. She's now got 2 kids, by the way. And, you know, no one thought that this was going to happen. It's an absolute triumph of kind of strength of will and belief over all the odds. I mean, really over all the odds, you know. Did you watch it? Did you manage to see it?
Kirsty, my wife, she watched it. She was tears and snotters, I think.
It really is a tears and
Yeah,
snotters watch.
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
doubt
yeah.
about it.
She was, yeah. I haven't seen it yet, but she said she was just, yeah. It was excellent, but
It,
you know, tough
Jenny
going
managed,
too.
Jenny managed to capture the strength, not just of the mum, and I'm going to get the name because that's really rude not to be doing that, isn't it? Lucy, of course it is. The strength of Lucy Lintott is her name. Not just her, which you see right from the beginning when she's doing charity work and when she's going to the gym and all these things. But also her strength with the relationship of her husband. They met at school, a kind of childhood sweetheart, a fantastic relationship, really uplifting, but also her belief that she was going to have the things that other people had, and that included a marriage, included kids, and all of those things. A remarkable story. And as I say, Jenny managed to capture not just the vulnerability of the situation, but also the strength of the situation. And I think her relationship with both of them really kind of makes the film. So yeah, I am promoting a pal's work. And actually, if I can promote another pal's work, my good friend Peter Mackie Burns is doing the TV adaptation of Andrew O'Hagan's Mayflies, which is coming out soon, which is terrific to know. But it was a great bit of telly. Mum with MND, being mum with MND, and as I say, it's on iPlayer still, so you should go and check it out. But take the hankies, because as Andy said, it is tears and snotters material.
Lovely.
Next for yourself.
Right. Okay. When we had a wee pre-podcast chat a couple of weeks ago, we talked about things that we might talk about, and we'd brought a new painter into the gallery
Yes.
at the start of the year, and a new painter to the gallery, but I'd known him since art school days, and Jonathan Shearer was a couple of years older, I think, or certainly was a couple of years further ahead at the art school, and studied painting, obviously. Well, not obviously, but he did. And I saw his work recently, and it's just really excited me. He paints on plein air, which I believe is French for outside.
Right.
So he paints on plein air, and so he takes all this stuff with him, and he is the real deal. He actually takes all the canvases, all the paint. He's got boxes that they'll slide into. You know, and a lot of people are quite studio based these days, and it's great to see somebody going out, takes the tent, you know, goes out for a few days, paints for a few days out in the sticks, and the result is these very, very almost moving paintings. He paints in very, very heavy, thick and pastel paint. Almost some of the thickest paint I've seen, you know, like Frank Urbach or something like that, you know.
So when you say moving, they appear to be actually...
Yeah, they almost physically... So if you're painting something like a burning spate or a coastal, you know, waves breaking, it always amazes me that people can paint that, because, you know, how do you... You know, it's a moment in time. It's moving, you know. So he does it very well. It's very hard to describe on an audio thing, because I've nothing to show you. But if you look up Jonathan Shearer, and he teaches on plein air as well. He gets booked up quite quickly for teaching these things. But we had a show with him in April. And it was a fantastically well received show, and I'm just so delighted to have him selling in the gallery, because his stuff's just incredible, and it excites me, and that's what it's all about, really. Yeah. Right.
What you're talking about reminds me of an artist called James Morrison, who's a landscape artist, an older guy, and I talked to someone who did make a film about him, the filmmaker
Mm.
Anthony Baxter, and it was very near his end of life, and he would paint out on the coast, you
Yep.
know, and do that kind of thing. But then eventually, through ill health and age, he had to come and do it in
Yeah.
I mean, he was kind of bemoaning the fact that he really wanted to get out there and, you know, have the seawater splashing his face as he was, you know, working on a canvas, that kind of thing.
It's quite cool, you know. Sometimes there'll be the odd bit of grass or sand or something on the canvas just from what he's been doing, but also he takes photographs when he's out, and got this amazing photograph of him using a snowbank as to hold his brushes. You know, he's got all these brushes just rammed into the snow as like, you know, it's a very it's very interesting photo, and it makes me smile. So there we go.
My next choice was, I've already said elsewhere, it's my book of the year. It's Ryan O'Connor's debut novel, The Voids.
Oh,
And set in Glasgow, very much kind of in the here and now. And it's the kind of people and places that are very rarely, you know, people might think, oh, it's got drink and drugs and it's set in Glasgow. I've read that before, but you really haven't, because it's so judgmental. It's not about, oh, look at these terrible things, oh, isn't it life, or celebrating violence or celebrate. It's just, this is how some people's lives are. And the central character in this book, this is how his life is. And it's about going into the kind of pubs that people might walk by in the daytime, and you know, going to places that you're kind of, other people might not know even exist, and, you know, going on 3 or 4 or more day benders and the kind of come downs that happen off that, of finding yourself on a grass verge and you think, how the hell did I get here? Now, I could, you know, I was, yeah, exactly. Going, that's
throw a rock in there and hit someone guilty.
But it's not just that. It's just that it was, Andy. That's why it kind of struck such a chord with me. It was like that. Wow, I've either been there or been very close to being there. That kind of thing. That's what it made me love it all the more. You know.
I think you did a podcast with him, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. Because I remember that, you know, and the description of these sort of pubs with the curtain, you know, the brass pole along the windows and the curtain, so nobody could see in or out. And
I often walk by pubs now. Some of the ones I used to go drinking in, and they've got huge glass things where everyone can see what's going on. I think, I don't really want that. You know, this is my private time. This is my private space. The Athol Arms, for instance, is like that now. And I think, no, you go there, we're going to hide away. But that idea, there's that idea that you go in and you're maybe the first person in, but there's characters that sit in the same place every time, and you might have a conversation with them if the drink flows. You may never have a conversation with them, but you kind of clock each other and you know each other.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a great read, and for
I think I'd like it. So what's that? The Voids.
The Voids by Ryan O'Connor. It's also, I mean, it's darkly funny, but it is funny. You know, there is a bit where he wakes on a verge, or he's going to a funeral and he's on the bus, but he falls asleep on the bus and it ends up going back to the terminal originally, you know, and he's missed the whole thing. That kind of story is going on. And then there's a story where he's in a flat in the West End of Glasgow, and, you know, he just feels something isn't right. And I think, well, I certainly have been in times where I've been in places and I go, how the hell did I get here? I shouldn't be here, you know, that kind of thing. So
absolutely.
I have to say, this was a long time ago.
No, I know, but
I recognize the life in it, and I really like the way he's written about it. So yeah, I just love it, absolutely love it. And I was really pleased to be able to do his Edinburgh launch. I was chairing his Edinburgh launch, and it was great to talk to him about the book further as well.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that podcast you did with him.
He was great to chat to. Really good to chat. What's next for yourself?
I've got Adam Ross, Staring at Mountains.
Lovely album. Lovely album.
Really lovely album, and lovely chap.
And again, nature kind of feeding into it.
Well, funnily enough, here's the thing. Jenny Sturgeon's vocals are on this as well. Because I was listening to it and I was like, that's definitely Jenny, you know, and right enough. So, you know, while she was off doing the Living Mountain, this staring at mountains. It seems to be a kind of reflection on, you know, being outside and being outdoors. And I really liked it. I saw him do some of it live as well. He came up and did a live gig, which I think actually, yeah, yeah. Have you must have this.
I do. And what I
Yeah,
would like
yeah.
to say is, can you read the name of the artist who's done the cover?
Oh yeah, because you've got one of his or her.
It's his.
Ooh, got my wrong glasses on. Hang on. What it is to have young eyes.
If you're listening to this on the audio version, there's some very funny squinting going on here.
Yeah. Okay. And I can artworks by Brian McHeary.
That's it.
McHeary.
That's it. Yeah, and he also did the BMX Bandits album cover.
That's right. Yeah.
I absolutely love his stuff, and I've got a Billy Connolly print that he's done, and I think I might get another one. He's done a fantastic one with Muhammad Ali and Robbie Burns together, which I really quite fancy. But he's a great artist, and it's a great album. You're right; it's a fantastic.
It's a lovely album. Again,
Adam Ross
really
is
well.
one of my favourite singer-songwriters because he plays the music beautifully, but his songs are just magnificent. His lyrics, you know, they're funny, they're heartbreaking, they're genuinely funny. You know, people say, "Oh yeah, there's funny lyrics," and you go, "Oh yeah, right." But he can be genuinely funny and really moving, and everything in between.
And he's got a great right-hand banjo roll.
Ah, there you go.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, anyway. One of those.
Yes, indeed.
Next, this is a very general kind of thing, but just and you mentioned Adam coming up and playing in Braemar, just the return of live gigs and how brilliant that has been, that live music is back. Now, I'm very lucky. I've been in the south side of Glasgow, and the Glad Cafe is literally 5-10 minutes away from me, and they've been putting on some amazing music. So I've been able to wander up and go and see. For instance, just recently I spoke about Mango Lassie. I saw Man in the Minch and Carla J. Easton. Saw Zoe Bestell's EP launch.
Lovely voice.
Yeah, Modern Studies played there recently, and on and on, and so many more. But also I've been to see Angus Monroe play the Flying Duck, and if you don't know Angus Monroe, go and check his stuff up. And just getting out to live gigs again. I was a bit trepidatious to begin with, but now I think, oh, what the hell, you know, let's go and enjoy music being played by people who enjoy playing it together. And you've had a lot in Braemar. I mean, there's been a lot back up there.
That was actually one of my topics here, which is kind of spilt on over into the Adam Ross thing, because Adam came up and played as well with Mount Doubt. And they did a set each.
Of course, yeah. Leo was up there.
Leo did a lovely chap as well. Just great, lovely people to spend time with. And Adam played a set, and Leo played a set, and then they did "It's a Sad and Beautiful World" by Sparkle Horse.
All right. Oh wow, God.
And no, I couldn't. I thought I'm not going to get through this. So there's many a tear was shed. So it was just lovely. It was absolutely quite special. Yeah, and they just jammed it on the night a couple of times through in the green room, and then went out and did it, and it was really special. Yeah,
I think that's the best thing, is to see people who love making music and doing it again together, and just the joy that they have in doing it. Like, for instance, Carla J. Easton's set at the Glad Cafe, that was to launch Weirdo, which was an album that came out in lockdown. It's a great album, but she couldn't launch it. Pedro Cameron's Man of the Minch, his album came out in lockdown, but they couldn't launch it. So they had this joint launch, and there was such an energy from the stage of them playing these songs live, perhaps some of them for the first time. And yeah, it was heartfelt and just a bit wonderful.
She's got such a strong ear for pop songs, you know. She just, I mean, just like monster pop songs.
Just like she lives and breathes.
Yeah.
Well, her other project at the moment is Poster Paints, and that's again huge pop hooks and all of those kind of.
Just amazing. Yeah, so that again, that I think that was my first one after lockdown. Maybe Jenny was, I can't remember, but it was that funny way where we took a bigger hall so that people could space out, and I was a bit it's strange, isn't it? You know, after 2 years, you're a bit like, oh, I don't know about this, but it was great to get back to it. But it wasn't the rush back to live music that everyone expected.
Oh, no,
You know,
absolutely not. Because I
no.
went to see Strange Blue Dreams do an album launch in
Yes.
Glasgow at St. Luke's,
Mhm.
which was a great night. But then after that, I'm still not so sure. But I think it was going to see Angus Monroe and the Flying Duck. It was
Mhm.
such a strong night. I went, oh no, I need to go out much, much more. Sod the consequences, as they say.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
famous last words as I then come
Yeah.
down next week.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
right. Is it me? Well, we're going to call that Adam Ross live gigs. But
Well, I call that as that was two of my things, but we'll call that one thing. Yeah. So it's
okay,
you.
yeah.
It's you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Right. And I think you'll love this book. Absolutely love it. And yeah, maybe Santa has it in his stocking. Who knows? Jude Rogers, The Sound of Being Human. Now, Jude
I was going to
Rogers.
ask. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So Jude Rogers, I know as a music journalist who wrote for various publications. For me, the work she did with the much lamented Word magazine, which I loved, the Word magazine, and still can't believe it's no longer with us. She was one of the main writers on that, and she does that thing of making you not just want to listen to it, but find out why she's so fallen in love with it. You know, it's not just saying, the Nicola Mahan, when she used to write for The List, did the same thing. Some of my favorite writers in The Melody Maker, Chris Roberts, for instance, did that thing. And it's how I like to think I write. It's like, if I don't like something, I won't write about it. If I think there's errors, I think, or problems, then I'll probably find a way of doing it positively. But there should be a positivity and a kind of celebration about what people are doing and the music that's made and the music that changes our lives. And that's what this is all about. And it's a mixture between a music memoir about the records that meant a lot to Jude throughout her life, but also looking at the kind of, you know, there's the David Byrne book, How Music Works.
Yes.
Yes, and that kind of thing where I think, well, why does that mean so much to me at that particular time? What's going on in the song, in the music that makes this personal? So it's a lovely kind of mix between the science, and that makes it sound really dry. I don't mean now here's the science, but you know, the science and the personal, that kind of thing.
Think of a number.
Yeah, exactly. And it's set out like a proper album should be. It's two sides. There's a track listing. And it's heartbreaking at the beginning because she loves listening to the thing that bonds her and her dad is listening to pop music on the radio. You know, that's their big thing, their big bonding thing. He goes in for apparently minor operation and basically never comes out. And that, you know, and it's brutal beginning, but the music, that connection that they made even at that early age stays with her right throughout her life, and probably is the reason she does what she does now. And just a few of the tracks on it, because I think you'll enjoy them, because just listening to these things. Super Troubadour, ABBA, Only You, The Flying Pickets, Prince Charming, Adam and the Ants, and you would certainly appreciate that. Buffalo Stance, Nina Cherry, Drive, REM. I won't give away them all because it probably would, but there's Talk in there. There's some Prefab Sprout, there's some Kraftwerk. You know, it's beautifully picked as well. Obviously, every one of us would pick different songs, maybe not entirely different songs. Bush mentioned too.
It's all killer.
It's all killer, and it's another one which probably will bring a bit of tears and snotters, but for all the best reasons, it's absolutely beautiful. It's called Jude Rogers, The Sound of Human, and it's certainly my non-fiction book of the year. Yeah,
Nice one.
how music shapes our lives, and it really does. Right, Andy, next for yourself.
All right. I've got no visual aid here. So at Halloween this year, as we're starting to put on gigs again in Braemar, Graham Stephen got in touch, and he has a show for the Nosferatu film, which is a film. Is it 30s, Ali? I think it's 1930s.
It might even be before that, Andy. I would have to.
It's one of the earliest Dracula-based films.
It's certainly, I think it's the first Dracula-based or vampire-based films. Put it that way. 1922, Andy.
That's on the way, right? Okay. So it's obviously a silent film before talkies, and because of the way it's shot, I mean, obviously, probably everyone's seen it. I hadn't seen it all the way through. I'd seen all the stills and all
Yeah.
the, all the sort of, when he appears with his long fingernails, etc. But so sorry, I'll gather my thoughts. Graham was coming up to play. He's written a score on guitar, and he plays his guitars through the effects pedals, and he's created a whole score for the whole film. So we put it on over at Braemar Village Hall,
Yeah.
and it was kind of quietish night, but it was great because I love Halloween anyway, and we thought let's do it near about Halloween. So we set up the hall, got really good projector over there, blah blah blah, got it on, and I was just blown away by. This is super nerdy, but I've never seen anyone use a delay pedal to that just so expertly. He was having it. I don't know if you've seen it, haven't you?
I have. I was lucky to see it
Yeah,
a year before lockdown kicked in. But
yeah.
it's wonderful.
So if you're near, you can see he's got the delay pedal, the big green one, line 6 DL4, and it's got reverse, and it's got, you can loop on it and you can reverse things. And by the time he's finished, he had an Eventide H9 as well, which is a pedal that is very powerful. But by the time, it felt like a whole score, like almost like an orchestra at one point, because we spread the sound, I mic'd his amplifier up, and we split it in the room, so we had sort of stereo and his amp, and it filled the room really nice. But yeah, it sounded like a whole orchestra was playing at one point, and everyone that spoke to me afterwards saying, "Oh, it was great. I loved his backing tracks." And he didn't have any backing tracks. That was all on the fly. That was as it was coming out of his guitar. He would trap parts of the guitar part. Obviously, practiced it to buggery, because if you do it wrong, you repeat your mistake over and over and over. If you play a bum note, it just gets repeated. Or look, it's a bit like some of these guys have the looper pedals now, and if you get it wrong, it's very obvious. But I'd never seen anyone do this to such a great extent, because he's down on the floor, moving the pedals, moving the settings as he's playing. And then he has an octave pedal that essentially turns the guitar into a bass for a while. He'll lay down a bass track, come back up, and he's up and down, and it was just amazing to watch. I could have just watched him, for the guitar nerds. You could watch the pedal action and be
I
quite
was going
happy.
to say, did you see any of the film? Everyone else is watching, and you're watching the pedals going, oh.
I was watching the tap dancing, but it was just astonishing. But on top of all that technical stuff, the music fitted the film so brilliantly. He had it right down, to the as a score should be, obviously, But no, it was a fab night. It really was. And at the end of it, people were coming up to me saying, "That was absolutely amazing. Imagine seeing that. Imagine seeing that in Braemar on a damp Tuesday or whenever it was, And and it kind of, because I was getting a bit reluctant to put shows on, because sometimes you don't, you have a few ones where it's quiet and yada yada, and you think, what's the point, but when you get a response like that, and people go, "Oh, it was really, really special. It was really amazing to be here and see that under these circumstances." It was really worth the while. So
I would
anyway,
have loved
that
to have
was
seen that in Braemar, with the all spookiness of place coming out into the dark.
yeah.
And I think probably most people are like you. They haven't seen the whole film. They've seen the kind of stills, or they know the famous kind of look of the guy. Yeah. But as I say, I saw it as well, and it's a brilliant marriage. He gets the soundtrack absolutely right and adds to this creepy, weird 1960s film.
Such a weird film because of the technology involved in that era. I suppose you're sort of overacting, you're overly made up, so it's basically overexposed with just black eyes and stuff, so it looked really, really ooky,
Just while I remember, there is a cracking film which came out, I was going to say, when did it come out? 2000s, 2001. It's called Shadow of the Vampire, and it's a fictionalized take on the making of that film. So if you enjoyed Nosferatu, should watch. Willem Dafoe's in it. I think he plays the Max Schreck character. It's worth checking out. It's very, very good.
That's great. I mean, I'll watch it again because I just really enjoyed it. But with that score, I mean, like I say, I could have taken the score on its own, but the whole atmosphere was great.
Well, talking of films, my next choice is a film called Ride the Wave. I think it might, I'm showing on my phone. I think it may have come out actually last year, but it became into cinemas this year, I think. It's filmed by Martin Robertson, and it's about a young Scottish surfboard guy, you know, and his family. And it's so he's going to, at a young age, like 14, 15, 16, he's going to these big competitions and doing really well. And his dad accompanies him and his mum. And it's really about family and how that balance between having ambition for your kid, but wanting to look after them. And it's never so, you know, this isn't someone who wants to play football. You know, you say, well, we'll let him go out and play, but then he should get an education as well and all that stuff. This is someone who's riding some of the biggest waves around. And, you know, there's natural kind of tendency to go, should we really be letting them do this? And the talent's there. So, well, just do you let the talent, you know, just go? And it's not straightforward. That's the wrong word, because it's beautifully shot. Particularly, I have to say, the stuff in the Highlands and on the islands of Scotland, and the surfing that goes on up north. But it's kind of simple in that he talks to, you know, he points the camera and lets the main protagonist talk about things. And yeah, it really kind of, it's quite a moving film, because you think of your own family and you know, the things that you know, do you let someone just do what they want to do, or do you hold them back and think, oh well, be careful, what might happen, we don't know what might happen.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think it's particularly a good film to watch at the moment, because there's lots of sudden, you know, kind of sun-drenched beaches and all that kind of stuff. And while I was messing around there, I was just checking it did come out. It was out this year. I think it did come out last year, but
right, okay.
You can get it. You can certainly get it on online now and check it out. I also want to say that the music for it is by Scott Twynham, whose music I absolutely love. Scott Twynham was in Looper, the band going back again, who came out of Bell and Sebastian, a kind of spin-off band. But now does kind of big soundtrack and very gentle piano pieces, and his music is absolutely beautiful. I love Scott's music, and it works so well on the soundtrack to Ride the Wave. So yeah, if you're looking for a movie suggestion over Christmas, for you.
Oh, cool.
You should check out the music of Scott Twynham, because Andy,
yeah. Scott Twynham. I will. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, is this your last one?
Yeah, could be.
No, it doesn't have to be.
It's there or thereabouts.
No, I think this is your ninth, because I started. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, it's going back to live music again, because most of my things have been live music this year. So Session A9 came to Braemar. Now I've seen them before, but I don't have myself down as a Scottish fiddle fan. However, having been in the Highlands for 20 years now, I've been exposed to quite a lot of Scottish fiddle music. And, you know, you start to go, oh, you know, and you can, it's a bit like, you know, when you first start listening to jazz or something like back in the day, you couldn't really, it's too much, you know, it's like, well, what is, you know, what kind of jazz do you like? You know, it's a bit like that, I find, with this
and what,
you know,
what's good and what's not, to that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And things that you like, you just go to lots of it anyway. So I find out I'm in that kind of, I'm in that atmosphere a lot. And Session A9, I just, you know, so you've got Charlie McCarran, Gordon Gunn, Kevin Henderson, and Adam Sutherland, all on fiddle. And then you've got pianist Brian McAlpine and David Robertson on drums. And then a guitarist, Mark Clement. And I saw this in St Margaret's in Braemar. I do leave Braemar occasionally, but why bother when all this stuff is coming here, you know? But it was a phenomenal night. Just absolutely unbelievable amount of talent on one stage. You know, they're just all at the top of their game, and all amazing players. And to see that up close, you know, like literally, you know, sort of, I could have hit them with my popcorn, you know. It was amazing, and also to see a drummer as an old drummer myself, to see a drummer just play one drum, but as an instrument that had so many sounds and controlled the whole thing. You know, he controlled the whole thing with one drum, and playing it with sometimes with very light sticks, or sometimes with he even had like a string of shells at one point. You know, it was amazing. It was amazing to watch. It's just incredible. Yeah, it's more of an experience. I would recommend anyone to go and see Session A9 if they're ever
Session
playing, because
A9.
Session A9, because I don't think they get together that often.
Right. I've never heard of them, so yeah.
Right, well, it's termed as a Scottish supergroup, the best band to come out of Scotland in 100 years, blah blah.
Yeah.
But you know, these are the taglines. But I think if you know your Scottish music, all these names are huge names. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm showing my ignorance in this area, but it's a bit like I know what I like, and I really enjoyed that. It was one of those nights you just you wanted to see. They got a standing ovation, you know. So yeah, it's all good.
Okay. So my final choice now, you know, of course, but many people listening probably won't know, is that in a past life I was a chef. I was a chef for many years. In fact, sometimes I still think of myself that way. You know, the first thing that you do as in a place of work kind of sticks with you. So I do love my cookbooks. And one that came out this year was Gary McLean's Scottish Kitchen. And it's a fabulous cookbook. Now, Gary McLean won MasterChef The Professionals a few years ago. He is Scotland's national chef, so he knows what he's talking about. But there's recipes in here that I have never seen in other cookbooks. Things such as how to make your own Scotch pie, how to make your own square sausage, how to make your own black pudding from scratch, you know, how to make your own morning roll, you know, instead of just going and stealing them from a cafe in the morning. A
fired one.
A well-fired one.
Well fired.
I mean, there's also, you know, game and fish and you know, all the kind of things that you might expect. And there's fine dining stuff here as well. But haggis pithivers, there's a whole chapter on haggis, which is brilliant.
I love the fact that they have a morning roll, because it's something that varies as you move around the country, you know, and you go, this is not good. You know, if it depends where you've been brought up, you know, but you go somewhere and they give you some horrendous bap, and it's not what I want.
And he admits that himself. It's also got things like Dundee cake, black bun, which I think, you know, was only ever in the Dandy or the Beano, I think. But how to make a tablet, yeah, just Glasgow macaroon. If you like cooking, it's not just Scottish Kitchen, it's one of the best Scottish cookbooks I've ever read. And if you're looking for a Christmas present suggestion, everyone out there, for the food person in your life, then Gary McLean's Scottish Kitchen is absolutely perfect.
Tablet's another one that varies.
It varies from street to street, from house to house, Andy.
You get practically white tablet, and then you get the burnt, hard tablet.
Stuff that'll take your teeth out.
Everything in between.
Yeah. So, to round things off, what would you like to talk about?
Oh, my final thing would be, now let me just get my thing here. We had Elizabeth Russo up to play, and that, as always, was just really magical. She brings Graham to play on guitar, Graham Stephen, and so he does his things with a looper pedal, etc., as I've just already talked about. And the last time I saw her, she was singing through sort of a lot of reverb pedals and things like that. I think she still does it, still got the looper and all that, and she harmonizes with herself, but in such a, I've never seen anyone do it in such a sympathetic way and in such an instinctive way. You know, you sometimes you look at it and you say, is she actually making that noise? You know, because she's not got her
Yeah,
mouth,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
she's not got her mouth open at all. There's just this noise coming from, you know, it's like that Rob Brydon Man in the Small Box sort of thing, you know. It's like you don't, you think, where's that sound coming from? You know, it was astonishing to watch and listen to, and she's lovely to deal with, and
Such a
yeah,
brilliant,
yeah,
brilliant musician and such a lovely
hmm
person. We
yeah,
had her on the radio show to chat about the new album, which is While I Sit and Watch This Tree, Volume 2. Yeah, I mean, you've had Elizabeth up a few times over the years, and it's always
hmm
really special, isn't it, to see her live, as you say, with Graham
yeah.
accompanying her, and yeah.
To me, that's just such a treat. You know, it's almost like you know, I would organize that and then, you know, hope that other people would come along and watch it, because it's just
But if it was
astonishing.
just you and me sitting on a couple of chairs, you
Well,
would
it just hopefully get some people to subsidize that. But you know, um, it's just such a magical evening, and the sounds that they create, and it's so not of this earth. You know, it's from somewhere else. I always say that about Lisbeth. She's just from somewhere else. You know, like all my,
interestingly,
yeah.
she's from Romania, Transylvania, isn't it? We were talking
That's
about
right. Yeah, yeah,
Nosferatu
yeah,
earlier on.
yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
And we also spoke earlier on, we were talking about Jenny Sturgeon and Amy Bowman, about that link with nature. And it's absolutely there with Elizabeth's music, isn't it?
hmm
And it's in
hmm
her
hmm
very bones, that kind of.
hmm Yeah.
The album cover actually has, it's a whale's eye with a kind of tear coming from it, and that would break your heart yourself. It's beautiful.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah. That's my bit on that, Ali. I just recommend anyone to go and see any of these people,
Yeah.
because they're great. You know, they're my favorites.
Yeah, another great example about what we've been talking about, live music being back. So, take advantage of it, because sometimes there are nights that you just won't forget. And we've had plenty of nights over the years going to gigs together, and you just think,
hmm
we'll have that memory, forever. And a lot of them
hmm
have been up in Braemar. And
Yeah. I'll never forget going to see the Blue Nile together. That was just incredible.
yeah, that was very moving indeed. There
In
was
in,
no,
in fact, in fact, the TV director Jenny was with us as well. I think.
she was, and she was, I think, quite amazed at how this band was moving us. Although she fell in love with the Blue Nile that night too,
Yeah,
uh, and has accosted Paul Buchanan at least once on Byers Road.
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Andy, thanks
Yes,
as always for that. I really enjoyed chatting to you about that, and you've introduced me to a few new things as well.
yes, yes. You too. And yeah, that's good. Aye, cool.
And we'll see you soon for a Christmas pint.
Yes, for a slap up meal at Mrs. Miggins' pie shop.
I'm looking forward to it. And we'll be back
Yeah.
soon with someone completely different. Cheers.